What's going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to the Colts Syndicate, where today we're going to talk about something that's a hot topic right now, especially since Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed had talked about this on their podcast. But we're once again talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. and the possibility of us trading up, right? We had talked about this when it looked like we were going to be a playoff team, right? At a point where the schedule looked easy. I thought we were going to for sure make our way into the playoffs. And we had talked about not being able to have the capital to go get Marvin Harrison. But we're sitting at a point now where I think it's a lot more possible. And when you hear what Zaire Franklin said and kind of how he said it, like he's right. We're sitting at pick 15. Okay, so keep that in mind. We're at pick 15. Let's go ahead, listen to what Zaire has to say here.
If Marvin Harrison Jr.
Don't do it.
No. If Marvin Harrison Jr. slides out of that top five, boy,
Phone's gonna be ringing.
everything in Indiana that is not nailed down will be sent directly to whoever got the fucking pick to bring his to coach. We'll have Anthony and Marvin, no practice facility, no building. It would be something else. It'd be Capital One Stadium. It won't be Lucas Oil no more. It'd be something else. We might even
Anthony Harrison.
We might not even have to say name. I don't know what going on, bro. We gonna get it. You hear me? So don't even like. That's what I'm trying to explain to you too, bro.
Okay, so as you can tell, he's juiced up about it. He wants it to happen. He believes it can happen. And I think putting a little public pressure on the organization to maybe go and do something is a good thing, especially one of the leaders of the team, somebody that's absolutely beloved by Colts Nation, coming out and saying this publicly on his podcast, right? If anything that's not nailed down, send it to whoever you have to. And I am completely with that, right? You think what that would mean for our future going forward if we're able to re-sign Michael Pittman Jr., right? Then you have Michael Pittman Jr., Marvin Harrison Jr., and Josh Downs. You also have Jonathan Taylor. You also have Anthony Richardson at quarterback. Okay, in a lot of different metrics, the Colts offensive line was the third-ranked offensive line in the NFL this year. So all in all, like the Colts offense with Marvin Harrison Jr., you plug that one piece in, right? You don't have to go pay a T. Higgins. You don't have to go pay anybody else in this free agent class. You know, Mike Evans, any of these guys coming out, you don't have to pay them. You can go get another rookie, and you can have a guy on a rookie contract while your quarterback is on his rookie contract, and that would help be able to pay the guys that we want to have back in the building, right? I think that's something that is very possible, but this is something that's also we're not going to know if it's really possible until draft day gets here, right? Until you get past pick 3. It seems like those first 3 teams could be picking quarterbacks, right? If Chicago, they could pick a quarterback, they could trade out. They could end up picking Marvin Harrison Jr. with the number 1 pick. Then Washington, they could end up trading out. They could end up picking a quarterback and not being completely sold on Sam Howell. If they are sold on Sam Howell, maybe they go ahead and draft Marvin Harrison Jr. New England, almost guaranteed to draft a quarterback one way or another. It seems like New England probably going to stay in that number 3 spot unless somebody offers them a quarterback and they can trade that pick and somebody else gets up there. I just don't see that happening. I think New England could end up with either Drake May or Jaden Daniels, who honestly I think are the 2 best quarterbacks in this draft. Probably an unpopular opinion, but I think Caleb Williams is very overrated. That's not really what this video is about, just a little bit of my opinion there. But then number 4, you have Arizona, and that's where you get to a point where, like, it's hard to see Marvin Harrison Jr. slipping past Arizona. They feel like a team that really needs a receiver. They feel like the most likely team to end up picking Marvin Harrison Jr. if Marvin Harrison Jr. ends up slipping past those first 3 picks, right? Again, Chicago, if they stay at 1, I could see them picking Marvin Harrison Jr. That feels like something that is very plausible in my opinion. Okay, but for this scenario, we're going to assume that Chicago, Washington, New England, those 3 teams, right? Chicago's going to trade out. Another team's going to come up, get a quarterback, and you're going to have those first 3 picks being quarterbacks. That's what I'm thinking, right? So then Arizona, you have to get past Arizona. If Arizona ends up drafting somebody that isn't Marvin Harrison Jr., right? I don't know what they would do at receiver at that point. Maybe they're going into free agency, but I don't really know what their financial situation there is in Arizona either. So it feels like they are probably going to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. But if they don't, right, if they draft one of the edge rushers, one of the top edge rushers, right, then you go to the Chargers, and Chargers have plenty of receivers. There are people thinking that the Chargers could be likely to go ahead and grab Brock Bowers, who's could be, and a lot of people starting to not like this word, but you just have to be able to use it correctly. A generational talent in Brock Bowers. Like, this is a guy that could be all time, right? If he can replicate the success from college and what he's been able to do in the NFL, then I think he could be one of the best we've ever seen. And I think it's very possible with what we just saw this past season with some of the tight ends that came out in this draft, obviously led by Sam Laporta, but there were some really good tight ends that came out of this last draft. I think Brock Bowers could be better than all of them, and he could end up going to the Chargers. But the Chargers are also in that position where they have plenty of talent, but they are in a terrible spot in terms of salary cap. So that number 5 pick, if Marvin Harrison Jr. is not in the first 4 picks, that number 5 pick with the Chargers is the one where I think you sell the farm, do whatever you need to do, and you go up and get Marvin Harrison Jr. at the number 5 pick. The Chargers can move down. They have plenty of talent. They're going to need draft capital so that they can get some young guys in the building, right? Get some more young guys to ease up on the salary cap. You can have more talent on less money, right? I think that's what they're going to try to do going forward. So I think if Marvin Harrison Jr., he doesn't even have to slip out of the top 5. He just needs to slip past those top 4. If he can do that, dude, I honestly think there's a chance Marvin Harrison Jr. ends up as a Colt. Okay, because how likely is it that really the Giants sitting at number 6, they're probably going to want to take Marvin Harrison Jr. if he slips out of the top 5. They're not going to move, right? They need receivers. They need guys that can stay on the field. Hopefully, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be able to stay on the field wherever he goes. But the Giants could be a team in the market for a receiver. Tennessee, the Titans aren't going to let us jump them in the draft order to go get what we need, right? They need the same thing. They're going to go get Marvin Harrison Jr., right? Atlanta at number 8, they could get Marvin Harrison Jr. with what they've done with their top 10 picks over the last few years. And then they spent big in free agency last year. So it's like Marvin Harrison Jr. makes sense in some way to every team in the top 10. And when you look at the top 15, there's one, maybe 2 teams, right? Minnesota and maybe New Orleans that really aren't going to be in the market for a receiver with that high of a pick. So you're looking at a lot of guys in front of us that we could end up losing out on a lot of wide receivers. It'll be interesting to see what we do, but I really think that Marvin Harrison Jr., like, we're at a time where the season didn't play out the way we thought it would. We end up with the 15th pick in the draft, which is middle of the road, right? You're not in that bottom half. You're actually in the top half. So we'll see if they're able to get a deal done. Again, it'll cost a lot. If you're trying to move up into that top 5, it's going to cost a couple of first-round picks. It's going to probably cost, second or a third. You throw in a 5th and a 6th, whatever it may be. It's going to be a high price tag to go up and get the guy we want. But again, if Marvin Harrison Jr. makes it past Chicago, Washington, New England, and Arizona, there's a chance. There's a chance that the prodigal son comes home to Indiana. Okay, and just think about it. We're thinking about the future. You have, obviously Michael Pittman Jr., but, whenever Michael Pittman Jr., whenever his contract does run up, we're going to have, at some point, T.Y. Hilton's kid coming out of college, right? Then you have Marvin Harrison Jr., and then you have T.Y. Hilton's kid, both on the same team with Josh Downs still. We would be so good, right? You think about what that legacy team would do, and you imagine if that team with Anthony Richardson at quarterback and those 2 guys at wide out in 5 years is able to win a Super Bowl. That would be some all-time stuff, okay? Now, that's very in the future thinking, so I'm definitely sitting here getting ahead of myself. It is what it is. All I know is that I continue to think about the fact that Marvin Harrison Jr., like, there's a chance. There's a slim chance. I don't know if Chris Ballard will do it. If he was ever going to do it, this is the offseason. So we'll see if he ends up making the move. Not completely sure if he's the kind of guy that's going to do that, but it would be amazing to see a move like that made on draft night. And again, I don't think the Colts are going to trade up before draft night because so many things could happen in that top 5. quarterbacks coming out, the wide receivers that are coming out, different teams wanting to trade up. What if the Colts trade up before the draft and then on draft night somebody trades up in front of the Colts and ends up drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. and then we end up having to take, edge rusher that high, and I just don't think that it's worth it. So I think we'll have to wait till draft night to know if this is something that's going to happen. But hopefully, at some point, we get some kind of indication from something Jim Irsay says or something Chris Ballard says or something Shane Steichen says that maybe somebody in the organization just says something that gives a little bit of a hint, like, oh, they really might go get Marvin Harrison Jr. That would be sweet. Okay, and I don't know how likely it is. You let me know what you think of this whole thing. Love to know what your thoughts are. You let me know down in the comment section. Of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Keep those notifications on so you get notified when more videos come out. And of course, I appreciate you stopping by for another video. As always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.